Future Hacker. Life. Path. Future.
Hello everybody and welcome to Future Hacker. I'm your host, Maria Taiji, and today we are talking to Anastasia Soloveva. Anastasia came up with the concept of Athena, an online education platform about finances to address the most underserved group on the financial market today. And guess what? Women, right? So the modern woman is working more, living longer than ever before, yet she makes 20% less than her male counterpart, as we all know. 70% more likely not to have a long-term financial plan, or around 86 failing the financial literacy test. Anastasia's 15 years private banking experience allowed to provide a holistic approach to finances and empower many women around the world with a financial plan without anxieties. Also, she's a prisoner here in Brazil. Basically, she got stuck in Rio because of COVID and seems pretty happy about it. Hi, Anastasia. How are you doing today?
Hello, everyone. I'm doing perfect every day in Rio. It's hard not to feel perfect here. Super happy to learn about Brazil, about the culture, food, nature. I'm really enjoying it. And thank you so much for these nice words and presentation.
Awesome. I'm glad you're enjoying. It's not that you had a choice in the beginning, but now you're starting to. So you're sticking there, right? So, before we begin the interview, just let us know a little about your background.
Yeah, sure. These days I call myself Carioca because I think I'm quite familiar with what's happening here in Rio de Janeiro and surroundings. But originally I'm from Russia, and I spent 15 years working in banking around the world. I started my career in Moscow in 2005-6, I don't remember exactly anymore, when Citibank came to Russia and they started to develop their banking services in my country. And I was a student, they were hiring students. I knew nothing about money, I knew nothing about finances. I have historical degree, I studied history in university, but I had to make money. So the best way to make money was to work for some newcomer, a hot bank, and I started. And that's how I learned everything I know about finances. So I spent 7 years working for Citigroup in Moscow and London. And then a Swiss bank called Credit Suisse hired me, and I moved to Switzerland. At 26, that seems like a mistake because Switzerland is a very calm place and I don't want to stay there for a long time. I mean, that's how I thought that time. And I asked my management to move me to Singapore. And Singapore is the place where I did probably some of my biggest deals in private banking, mixing like private banking, investment banking experience. That's where we built the whole desk and brought many assets at that point. So it was a really amazing 5 years spent in Singapore. And that's from where I took off to Harvard Business School. And that's how we know each other. In Harvard Business School, what they teach you is that having a comfortable life of the banker is not enough. You want to do something more. You want to change the world. You want to make a difference. You want to create a company that would provide the value. And that's when I thought, in fact, yes, I always wanted to create something interesting. I wanted to learn how to build a business. And during my banking experience, I actually started to notice that banking system is not perfect and that there are so many things which we can improve. And how women are served in bank was one of that areas. And that's how the idea of Athena came. And I didn't know anything about banking. So I moved after Harvard, I graduated. I moved to Silicon Valley because I thought that's the way you learn about startups. And that's how my journey began. That's a little bit about the background. With Athena, in general, we are creating this online educational platform for women about finances. Basically, we just help women to realize their potential once they learn about finances and once they learn how to manage their own money. That's as easy as that.
So you know what? One thing that you have in common with most of our guests is that you have such a strong international background, right? Which for sure it's very mind-opening to say the least, right? So you mentioned, we all know how the women segment in finance is underserved, as you mentioned. But still, why specifically focus on women and finance? Do you see it as a way of empowerment? Or are you more just covering a market gap. I'm just wondering if you have any personal experience that moved you towards this direction, or is more like an opportunity that you saw and you're, trying to cover that?
Yeah, look, well, let me describe you my journey through the banking system and tell you what I have noticed over there about finances and women. And then I'll answer your question completely. What is this exactly? Is it a mission or it's a business opportunity? So I'm originally from Russia. In Russia, women are not interested in finances at all. For them, you have the man, you have the husband, the boyfriend, the father, the brother, and they take all the financial decisions for women. That's the mindset I was grown with, right? Like I never was educated that I have to learn about finances that much. And then when I moved to London, I've seen different approach to money from their co-workers, from their friends, like from people you start to get to know those people. And I was like, wow, that's different. They think about money differently. They have more responsibility. They take decisions. How is that? That's the first touch you have, and that's how your mindset gets shifted, first of all. And also, you take a look at the customers. I always saw that there is difference between my male customers and my female customers. Male customers usually have their assets that they earned, that they saved, that they inherited and preserved. Women, in my case, like right now it's changing, but at that time when I just started, women would have their assets usually from divorce or from inheritance, but not always. Like most often it was from the divorce. And how women would think about money and how men would think and approach their investment decisions was so completely different. I would sit down with men, we would talk about investment strategies, we would talk about different opportunities. It's like, like two professionals talk to each other, or semi-professionals sometimes, because like our gentlemen always say that they know about money, that they're certain about some things, but not necessarily they know it as professionals. But it's anyway, like they have some basic understanding on how finances work. With women, I would always have completely different conversation. We'd sit down, would take a look at their assets or expenses, and they would always outsource decision-making on me. They would say, yes, whatever you think is the right decision, we should do it. And that always scared me because I knew that, how hard it is to take the right decision, how fragile this decision can be. So like, I've noticed that pattern and I was like, no, hold on, let me educate you first. Let me explain you what I'm doing over here and let me teach you how to take those decisions in future. And let me remind you, I was like 20 something and those women were usually like 40, 50 and so on. So it's like, I've seen that even those people who are much more advanced in life than me, they don't know that much about finances. And I was like, okay, so what about my friends? I started talking to my friends and not all of them actually had the smartest decisions. My professionals, like colleagues who surrounded me, like professional environment, like what do you do as a first-time banker in your 20s when you get your first bonus? And that's actually the mistake I did. My first bonus I spent on luxury goods. I bought a Louis Vuitton bag. I bought, some expensive things. The most dumb decision in my entire life, actually. Would I spend that money differently? Would I invest that money or save that money? I mean, thank God, banking career worked out differently for me, But in general, thank God I changed that course, but it would never lead me to the right wealth creation. So that's how it started. And then I moved to Switzerland. And I thought, okay, so Switzerland is a very progressive country. But why women don't participate that actively in decision-making in the financial careers? In fact, women were given voting rights in Switzerland only in the middle of 50s, if I remember correctly. So very, very recently. And in general, women of the West, let's put it that way, women of the West got their right of having their own bank accounts only recently in 70s. And not many of them have credit cards on their names yet. We're actually trying to collaborate with one of the communities in Chicago, and there is a bit different target audience they have than from what we usually approach. It's a little bit more older women. They're in the 50s and they're around the retirement stage. And they said, Anastasia, would we know that we have to have accounts on our names? Would we know we need to create credit history? Our divorces would look different. So it is very important to understand the power of finances, the power of decision making in finances. And another thing which I've noticed being a banker is that when the couple comes to you and you discuss family assets, family wealth, very often women sit nearby. They don't have an opinion, don't have knowledge, they have no idea what's happening with the assets of the family, which is, in my opinion, very wrong. So I would usually try to involve them in the conversation, like to explain them, but also like when they feel that, like decision-making power of the man next to them, it is usually a useless conversation. So unfortunately, that was historically done like that, and I'm trying to change it right now.
I absolutely love that. I absolutely love that. And, I do hope that there's, just a growing movement, right? That we have more people like you, teaching, because actually at the end is a matter of knowledge, of education, right?
Yes, it is the matter of education for sure, but it's also the question of career choices. So like on our platform at Athena, we are talking a lot with our customers, and we do everything. Like, we teach them, we question them, we have private interviews. And very often in those interviews, I'm trying to understand how it happens that people actually end up being a waitress. Not a bad profession to have. It pays very well in the United States, actually. But the details of that profession do not let them feel as secure as, for example, being a banker, let's say. And very often women choose those professions differently. So I'm talking to most of my customers, and girls usually in their 20s dreaming of being designers, models, singers, artists, creators. Those are really amazing professions, but they're quite vulnerable in terms of pay. And we talk about this a lot, and I want for those people who hear me out right now as well to talk to your children maybe, or to actually think about your career choices. Yes, it is amazing to be a creator. It is amazing to be in the artistic area, but you have to understand what kind of consequences it has on your financial stability. And in general, turning from broken artist into somebody who has sustainable wealth and income, it is a path. And that path goes hand in hand with financial literacy. So explaining yourself how finances works, it is very, very important. And unfortunately, it is something what we do not get as education, neither in the school, and very often neither from the family. We speak with our customers very often, and most of those who are very, very curious today about finances are saying, I have the background of the family when we never talked about finances. Our parents, they don't know themselves how to manage their finances. So yes, our parents were not educated. Our mothers don't talk with their daughters about finances. And that has to be changed for sure.
And that's so true. That's awesome. Great answer. Okay, Anastasia, so let's move to cover what we've been super, super thirsty for. So completely changing topics here. NFTs, the super trendy non-fungible tokens. So, I'd like to use this episode to cover the very basic first, because I know that, probably most of the listeners won't really understand that. And, quoting our professor here to say, please explain as you would to a loved one. What is a non-fungible token?
Okay, great. So what is non-fungible token? Non-fungible token, it's something what's not real in this world, but you still can own it via the code. Something you cannot touch, but you can own. It is something what you can see, but not feel. It is something what you can pass with a code and get paid for that.
This is just sounding like a riddle, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Let's explain it once again before we move into that, because that's like more advanced. So what is fungible and what is non-fungible, let's say. So NFT, it's a token, basically. It's a code that says that you own a unique digital item, right? So fungible versus non-fungible, it's how you look at the asset. For example, you can trade to $5 bills for one $10 bill, right? And in the end, you will end up with the same amount of money. Non-fungible, it's completely unique. And it is not like interchangeable. Anyone can download and frame, let's say, the picture of Mona Lisa, but there is only one original painting. So you cannot, get the Mona Lisa painting, cut it in two, and say like it is like worth right now the same amount which it was worth before as one piece, because it's a destroyed object. So it is something absolutely unique and interchangeable.
Okay, that's definitely more clear. Thank you so much for the explanations. But, of course, as Future Hacker, we have to go deeper into that. We're getting to the end of the first episode. So everybody, if you're still curious about how NFTs work, just stay tuned. We'll keep this conversation with Anastasia. We'll be right back.
Future Hacker. Life. Path. Future.